Okay, so it says we're live.
Awesome.
Okay, so hello Edith, and thanks very much for joining us. You're over in Melbourne, aren't you?
Yes, thanks for having me, Georgie. Yes, I live in Melbourne. I'm from France, but Australia is home now. And yes, I've been here for 10 years, more than 10 years now. So yeah.
Oh, really? That was going to be my question. How long have you actually been there?
Yeah, life is pretty good here.
Yeah, yeah, it always seems nice. Weather-wise, everybody thinks life must be wonderful, but of course, wherever you are, there are still going to be stresses anyway, aren't there? So, okay, so how about starting with just sort of when did you start having symptoms, for example? Because I know you thought, well, which symptoms have you experienced? Because that might make it easier at the beginning to talk about
so
that. Before we start, I also just want to say hello to a few people who've joined us so far, and we'll gradually see joining. So hi everybody, nice to see you. Edith's going to talk a little bit about her story at the moment, and then by all means give some questions, ask some questions when you want to. But hello Catherine, she's already said hello to you. So yes, what symptoms have you experienced, and then maybe we can go into them a bit more.
Yes, so I mean, I had symptoms, mind-body symptoms in many, many different shapes and forms. Insomnia, I had neck pain, knee pain, but without knowing that there were mind-body conditions.
Yes.
So I'm not going to talk about all my symptoms, otherwise we are here until tomorrow. But the three ones that I would like to discuss today are vulvodynia, so pelvic pain, RSI, and eczema, if we have time.
Okay. Great. So when did you come across this? When did you begin to recognize mind-body? Just to give us an idea.
So it's funny because I've always had this interest and awareness in the mind-body connection. I remember my mother, when she was stressed, she would have herpes, and she would be like, oh, whenever I'm stressed, I'm getting this reaction. And I was really little, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's sad, but I thought it was interesting. But I also had issues with constipation. Sorry, it's not very glamorous. But once I went to a doctor, so I was probably, I was studying, so I was something like 22 years old. I was finishing my degree, and I had terrible constipation. I went to see a doctor, and he said, how do you feel in your life? And I said, I'm stuck. I finished my studies. I don't know what to do. And he said, what did you say? I said, I'm stuck. And I went, oh my God. And he said, just a normal GP, he said, you don't need any prescription. I'm giving you a prescription just in case, but here you go. You'll be fine. And I ran to the toilets after that. It was just.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Wow. I had to go to a public toilet because it was instant, the realizing that my symptom was a reflection of how I felt in my life, stuck. So that was when I was 20-something.
So that epiphany just allowed your body to just go. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and then, you go through life without questioning too much, go through the motions of life without questioning too much feelings or what you're doing, because it's always the next goal and the next step. I moved to Australia with my partner at the time, and we broke up. And so I felt like the whole world was collapsing, and I had to start from scratch. My family is in France. I had friends in Australia. I didn't know if I would keep on, having friends with them or being friends with them. Or anyway, so it was really, really hard. And so I moved into my own place, and that's when I started to have vulvodynia. So I'm saying vulvodynia now, but at the time it was just pain. It was tension, constant tension there. So I'm going to tell you why it was, because it's relevant to my realization of what it was. So it was right at the entrance of the vagina, at the entrance, and you'll know why it's important. But I've got the definition here of vulvodynia, just because maybe some people don't know what it is.
Good idea. Wow.
Yeah, I am prepared. Vulvodynia, condition where there is pain, burning, and discomfort in the vulva that cannot be linked to a specific cause. This pain may or may not be triggered by touch and may be felt in some area or across the whole vulva. So it's all shifting pain. You cannot pinpoint what they basically define vulvodynia by every possibility of discomfort down there. Anyone with vulvodynia have a normal looking vulva. So there, I was, busy at work and just constantly in pain. And so, of course, you go through the cycles of seeing one doctor. He says, oh, maybe it's a yeast infection. Another doctor, it doesn't work. Treatment doesn't work. Another doctor, maybe it's, it's burning sensation. Okay, maybe it's a UTI. So I was getting treated without having any tests or anything. The doctors were just giving me antibiotics or whatever based on my sensation, what I was telling them I was feeling. And then it became BV, so bacterial vaginosis, and then maybe eczema, and then all those things. So 9 months of this, waiting to see the expert, and then you have an appointment in 6 months' time. And anyway, so I've never seen any experts. What happened is I went to see a really, really good doctor, gynecologist, just from Medicare, so NHS, just no one specialized in the mind body, but she said the right thing. So she ausculted me. So she looked at what was happening there. Sorry, my hair is a bit crazy. And at the end, so of course I was screaming in pain. So she's like, okay, does it hurt here? I was like, yes. Does it hurt here? Oh, no, it's okay. And of course, I could not see what she was doing because you know what it's like. Yeah. And at the end, she goes, look, I know your pain is real, but, and I'm like, but what? Because of course it's real. And she said, and that's the crazy thing. She said, I touch you here, you are screaming in pain. I touch you there, you're fine. I touch you back at the original spot and you don't feel pain. So she said several times I touched the same spot, and sometimes you were screaming, sometimes you had no pain. So when you have no idea of how the pain is generated in the brain, when you have no idea how it works, it doesn't make sense at all. And she said, I believe you have vulvodynia. And I'm like, no, that's psychosomatic. I don't have that. And, and then she said, I'll prescribe you some antidepressants. And I thought, I'm not depressed. I'm extremely happy. And I could not understand why she was giving me antidepressants for something that was physical pain, Anyway, so she gave me this, because at first I said, no, I don't have this condition. It's not possible, blah, blah, blah. My ego was resisting the diagnosis because I didn't want to look at my...
And how long ago was this?
That was a long time ago. So that was, so around 2012, 2013.
Okay.
And then she goes, okay, just have a look at the symptoms. I give you a little leaflet, no pressure, but have a look and tell me what you think. So I go back with my box of antidepressants, not super happy about that, and this leaflet. So I read the symptoms, and they described shifting symptoms, change from burning to tension to discomfort. I'm like, this is exactly what I have. And I thought, okay, I have to, then my ego sort of calmed down. And I thought, okay, I have to accept that's what I have. And then I thought, okay, I've got antidepressants. So is there something I'm unhappy about? Is there something psychological about this condition? And I spoke with a friend. I'm like, oh my God, because I was upset. I thought, if it's something that has no cause, how on earth am I going to get better if I don't, if we do, you know? So that was the thing that was bothering me. So I call a friend to vent, and the friend says, are you sure it's not in relation to your ex? And the funny thing happened, my ego, so my logic, my frontal cortex was talking and saying, no, what are you talking about? What ex? No way. Oh, stupid. But my eyes were, filling up with tears. And I was And there was this moment where there was dissociation with body response. I was extremely emotional, and my brain going, no, 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 I'm fine. What are you talking about? My ex. It's very strange. And I thought, okay, I'm crying. Obviously, there's something wrong. So I went home and I thought, okay, I have to ask the right questions. So what's happening? What's happening? So I went into introspection, a bit like a meditation, but it's just a dialogue. And I felt open to face the truth, I guess, without being very aware of it. I just thought, okay, what is going on? So I asked myself, what has changed since your breakup? And 3 things had changed, and they sound a bit weird and unrelated, but there's a connection between those 3 things. First thing, I had developed night terrors. So I had terrible nightmares since moving in on my own, where several times a week, screaming at night, being terrified, and the nightmare was that someone would break into my house.
Right.
So that was recurrent night terrors. Okay. Second thing, it sounds very strange, but I had developed a phobia when I was putting on my shoes, and I know it sounds weird, I was scared there would be a spider in my shoe.
I don't think that sounds weird. I think all of us think that we'd be scared if we lived in Australia.
Okay, but I had lived in Australia, and Melbourne is so urban. It's not Queensland when you have python, crawling above you in the toilet. So it's not that. So it started then. It was not there before. I was not even too scared of spiders.
Right.
And every day I was shaking my shoe, making sure there's no spider. And the vulvodynia thing. And I thought, okay, so those 3 things, what's the connection between them? And it sounds a bit far-fetched, but to me, it made so much sense. So if you think about vulvodynia, it's pain, tension at the entrance of the vagina, obviously the most intimate part of myself. Nightmare about someone breaking in, danger around my home, my intimacy, my private space, someone breaking in. There's this movement from outside to inside. And the shoe, same thing. It's an enclosed space, private. Obviously, you don't really share your shoes. It's dark. You can't see what's inside. And this movement going inside and fear. And there's fear and danger. So I had this light bulb moment, and I thought, I am scared that I will get hurt in my intimacy, in my private space.
Yes. Yeah.
Once I made the connection, it was an explosion in my brain, and I started to cry and cry and cry and cry. Symptoms absolutely gone on the spot. All relieved, all gone.
And how amazing to make the connection between all those as well. That's incredible.
And it was just the emotion pushing through, I guess, because I was not even aware of this work. So I was not thinking, okay, I have to do my meditation and emotional awareness and somatic tracking. I didn't do any of this. I was just checking in and being open to the truth.
Yeah, you weren't trying hard.
No.
You were exploring and curious and interested, which kept you in that safe place in the relaxation.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than in fear, trying to find an answer, looking, searching.
Exactly. Wow. I stopped the treatment, and I didn't need the antibiotics. I went back to see this gynecologist to tell her, this is my story. If someone else has vulvodynia, like you can diagnose that. This is what happened. I don't want to say people have to sit down and ask those questions, but bring awareness to what the situation, what is happening in the private sphere, intimacy, of course. And the symptoms disappeared for many years, and then they came back when I met my current partner, because it was the same situation where I was letting someone in.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
So I had to do more work there, but then I had read Sarno. I knew what it was. I knew I could. I had, done that work before, that it worked. So I was it's always scary the second time because you're like, how come it's still happening?
Yes.
And you want it to go away. But the second time I did a different method. I did a series of meditation specifically designed for PTSD. And it's called Ride the Wild Horse. And it's also includes somatic work. So you have to clench your fist and release. And the fact that I was connecting with my body then. And then through the meditation, then I was crying again. And then once I had reached that space where I could let this energy, the sadness and the fear, for me was fear, out, gone. Yes. And I can tell you since then, never, ever, ever, ever have I felt discomfort there.
Wow, that's incredible. And maybe afterwards we could include the link, if you could.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Add that link to that Ride the Wild Horse under this video when we finish. That would be fantastic. I just want a comment from Shaheen here saying, wow, what an incredible intuitive moment that you were able to make that connection. It is. I think that's incredible. And especially without this awareness, you just intuitively knew what you needed to do.
It's funny, yeah.
Yeah. I just want to also just say hello to everybody else who's here. We've got a number of people, Jane from Dublin, Susanna from Zurich, Wendy from Kent. So yeah, nice to see you all there, and a couple of our practitioners as well. So again, if you've got any questions you want to ask Edith about that, we will carry on talking for now, but we can answer those at that point. And Wendy's just said amazing story. It's incredible. Yes, I'm sure that lots of people will be interested in the meditations that you mentioned as well. So where do you want to go to now with all this?
So yes, I wanted to talk about eczema, which is a lifelong journey for me. It's important for me to pass on the message that it's normal to experience symptoms when stressed. So eczema, it's been I don't know even where to start, because my first symptoms were when I was 3 months old. Right. So I've always thought it was genetics and there was nothing that could be done. And thanks to this work, and it took me so long, Georgie, to fully accept that it was not just the way it is. It is absolutely every single time triggered by stress or repressed emotions. Yep. But doctors throughout my whole childhood created, of course, they're well-meaning, and I don't, I really value, obviously, all the doctors I've seen, but I had this belief that there was nothing that could be done, that it was an allergic reaction, and only now I'm starting to challenge that I don't have allergies in the end. It's just a response to stress. So, yeah, so I mean, I don't know where to start.
Well, I think, first of all, I think it is important to say that, that these are learned neural pathways for you. This is something that is, again, I can't think what the word is that we're both trying to think of for this specific symptom, for example, that's your go-to symptom if you're stressed, for example.
Yes, my go-to symptom,
yeah. And for people to recognize that no matter, it's the human condition to actually experience stress. We will all have stress. Our mind body works together. It's the human condition to have symptoms. The difference is actually having to just live with it and treat the symptom, rather than recognizing that, okay, if we go into that fear and focusing on the symptom, we're not going to help ourselves. When we start exploring the emotional side and really understanding it, then we can do something about it. So yes, I occasionally get a bit of eczema as well. I've seen it within my family. When eczema occurs, there's always something going on in our lives, and that's a great clue to just, again, reflect and just consider what might be going on, and not like what I love about your story about your vulvodynia as well is you weren't in your head trying to work everything out. You weren't sort of going, well, is it this, is it that, and over-analysing it, which so many people do. It was more that you were intuitively looking at this, so that you were allowing your unconscious mind to gain that, to have gain those insights.
But with eczema, I think I want to quote a couple of examples, even recently, because you think, oh, I'm a coach now, I'm a SIRPA practitioner, so I should know and I should not have any symptoms and blah blah blah. So it's all those self-induced pressures. And with me, I don't know if it's the same with you, but with me, the location of the eczema is always a story. It is a strong message. So just an example, a few years ago at work, I was in a sort of uncomfortable situation with a colleague, and she was sitting just next to me. And I had eczema on my legs, so at the back of my thighs, and also on my hands. And at the back of my thighs on both sides. So, of course, you're thinking, oh, it will go away. I don't care. I can just... Because for me, all those symptoms never, and I'm really lucky, it never prevented me from being active, from going to work, from exercising. I've always been able to engage in the world in that physical way. But for me, it's a more relationship type of trauma. So it's more... I will prevent myself from engaging in some relations, or maybe I will trust someone too much, or maybe I will be scared to upset someone, so people pleasing. So it's all about those behaviors, authenticity or lack of authenticity, people pleasing. Anyway, going back to my story. Here I am next to my colleague. I don't say anything because I'm a nice worker, I'm a nice girl. And I'm fuming inside because there's tension. And one day, so I ignored the eczema because, of course, it doesn't prevent me from doing anything I like, but it's really uncomfortable. And I was at work typing away, and I'm like, it's funny. My eczema is so uncomfortable, and it's just located exactly on the part of my body that is on my chair. And I thought, oh my God, I need to change where I sit, because the annoying colleague was right next to me. So my body was telling me, get the fuck out, get out and move your ass somewhere else. Go and sit somewhere else. As soon as making this connection, understanding that, the message. I spoke with my boss, we rearranged the office, eczema on my legs, gone.
Wonderful.
As simple as that. So now I'm sort of thankful, even though it's annoying, I'm thankful for the wisdom of the body and the message. And I try to learn the language of the body and try to understand what it's trying to say. And sometimes it's not easy, but I also had eczema. Oh, look, I don't have anything now. So that's you. Since I moved part-time, I don't have any symptoms of eczema.
Brilliant.
And I had eczema, so I don't know if you can see here.
Okay.
And between my fingers. And then one day I thought, what's happening? Why? It's weird. It's a bit weird to have eczema just there. And I thought, okay, if I do this, all my eczema is contained in my fist. There's no eczema all around. And I thought, oh my God, I'm really angry. I want to punch someone. So that's really useful for me to look at the location.
All right. So that was the location side as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes.
Because I was angry and I just wanted to fight someone, punch someone. Wonderful.
So again, it's about being able to gain these insights, but not searching, but sort of just exploring with interest and curiosity. And sometimes it's not possible, is it? Sometimes it's just really challenging to actually understand. And then the more we're trying to understand, the more stress we cause ourselves, which then doesn't help. So then actually that's when the emotional awareness, somatic tracking, that sort of work can come in, where we deal with, you knew you were angry, so actually then dealing with the anger, even if you don't understand that's the link with the eczema, is likely to help as well. So I just want to make that clear, because I know that for so many people, part of the problem is them desperately searching for the cause of understanding exactly what's going on. And certainly I don't always understand it when I get a bit of eczema somewhere, but I just generally explore my life and think, okay, so maybe I need to take more time for me, or just do some journaling and free writing and see what comes up. increased emotional awareness that I'm doing, things like that. So I just want to go back. We've got some more messages. Kate says, thank you for sharing a personal, inspiring story. And yeah, I know I've said this to you before and reiterating it, that, you know, it is wonderful to have you willing to talk about pelvic problems, because so often people aren't willing to actually tell their story. And it's really helpful for people. And obviously it is a personal area and often people don't like to. So thank you. And this will go up on our website as well. And we also have, I think it's Tommy talking about male pelvic problems as well, so which is wonderful. So Vanessa then popped in to say she's in South Africa. So hello, Vanessa. So everybody all over the place. And Wendy says the release of emotion that took it away, the vulvodynia, is a real lesson. And I think that's when you were telling us that made me think about book recoveries, that people who are reading the books and they have what are called a book recovery, it's that sort of epiphany and that unconscious release that no matter how much we try consciously to get that, actually that makes it even harder. So this is just a real gut instinct, a release. And that's something that we can't consciously do, but you can explore and read more things and do some introspection as well. And then, yes, that can happen. But I think, yes, it's really lovely that happened. So Catherine Pollitt, another of our practitioners, hello, thank you for have I said this one? Sharing such an intimate story. It's very powerful and will help an awful lot of women who dare not mention they are in pain down there. Yeah, absolutely. Very true. Fred says hello. Shaheen says, thank you, so brave and kind of you to share your very personal story that can help so many other women.
Thank you.
Catherine also asked another question, a question that might pop into our intellectual heads. Did you, oh yes, good one, Catherine. And I wondered this, Catherine, actually, when she said it, and then I forgot. Did you change the actual chair as well?
Catherine, it was not the chair. It was where I was sitting, so next to the person that was to me problematic. So I kept my chair. No problem with the chair. It was the location. Great.
I think that's an important point to make, actually, Catherine. So thank you. Wendy says, my husband became allergic to his wedding ring. We were going through marital problems. Interesting. Now 2 years later and things are much better. Dermatitis gone. We only put it together a while ago. Oh, I've got a shiver down me when you said that. Wow, well done, Wendy, for making that connection and for being brave enough to actually mention it as well. Wow, thank you. And yeah, Catherine says perfect clarification about the chair. And I think, yes, that was important. Wow. So I think this is covering a whole load of things and really helping people recognize it's not just about sort of trying and reading and, you know, doing loads of strategies. Yes, it can all help, but it's when you don't actually really overanalyze and try so hard and put a timeline on it, then it's more likely to actually have an impact. Wonderful. So is there anything else that you particularly, but do come in with any more questions as well, everybody, because this is all about you. If you've got any questions, please ask.
Otherwise, I mean, I can talk about RSI if that is of interest.
Yeah. Why not? Because there will definitely be people actually who have RSI as well. Yes.
Yeah, and RSI is, for me, was so connected to physical, even just the name, repetitive strain, injury. So how could it not be physical? So I had this belief it was impossible for it to be from any other causes. And it's a funny story, RSI, of course. I'll keep you entertained. So, you know, RSI, I guess a lot of people develop RSI because they have repetitive work in a factory, or maybe they're clicking on the mouse and it's stressful, whatever. I got RSI from an excessive usage of, when I was single, of a dating app called Tinder. Who gets RSI from that? Seriously, I was like swiping.
Oh, brilliant! And just think about the emotions behind doing all that as well.
There's of course a backstory, but so for people who haven't used the app, so basically you have a profile on your phone, and if you like the person, you swipe right, and if you don't like, you swipe left. And so I was on my phone all day swiping. Mainly left, because I had very high standards, so swiping left. And here I am starting to get pain in my wrist, and I'm like, how embarrassing, I'm getting RSI from Tinder. So I didn't really want to go to a doctor or anything, so of course I started to Google RSI, and I also had this anxiety generated from my brain telling me, oh my God, you've got RSI from using your phone. Very soon you won't be able to text your friends, and then you will lose all connection. So there was this catastrophizing happening as well on the surface. So surface was anxiety, catastrophizing, RSI all on the surface. And the deeper meaning, I'll tell you now. So at the time, so I was single, and I had met someone I really liked. So I fell in love with that guy. It didn't last very long, didn't eventuate to anything, and he actually moved somewhere else. And when he left, my ego, once again, willing to protect me, my ego said, okay, now you don't care about this guy, immediate replacement, go online and find someone immediately. So that's why I had this, going crazy trying to find someone new, not someone to connect with genuinely, but just someone to keep me occupied. Okay, we can go on a few dates, see what happens, or maybe there's this other guy I like, whatever. So that was my ego state replacement strategy, because the other guy left. And when I went online to look up RSI, that's when I came across the work of John Sarno. And it definitely says RSI is a mind-body syndrome. And I thought, it's so physical. How can it be a mind-body? And the more I was reading, and there were other sources, so it's good the work, SIRPA is doing, and the work we're doing as practitioner, because the more we get the word out, the more there will be articles, and people can be like, okay, there's one article, 2, 3, 4 saying the same thing, that it's a mind-body, and that's how you can open your, I guess, sort of stop being stuck into your belief and open up your understanding about what else, open up possibilities, basically.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, once again, another one. Because, vulvodynia, eczema, all those things. I'm like, oh, okay, RSI, here we go. Now I know what to do. Check in with myself. What's going on? What's happening? And I thought, well, the other guy, I really liked him. And I thought, what is actually my body telling me? Oh, no. Before getting to there, I paid attention, because I struggled to believe it was mind-body. So I needed more proof. And then one day, so I dropped my beliefs, and I thought, okay, let's just see how I feel doing different activities with my wrist. And I was at the hairdresser reading, something not interesting, gossip magazine, whatever. And I was doing this movement. Anyway, so same as on the phone. Yeah. And I thought, hang on, I don't feel anything when I'm doing this. And it's the exact same movement. And that's when I thought, okay, so it's in relation to not the movement, but to the activity connected to the movement, which is me looking for someone else. And then I thought, okay, what's happening? And of course, I knew I was sad because of this guy. And I thought, what is my body trying to tell me? And then I thought, my body is telling me to drop my phone and stop using this app, because I need to grieve. I need to feel the emotion, the sadness. And even if it didn't last very long, that story meant something for me, and I need to just feel that. Absolutely. And I did. I felt I grieved, and I was sad for a while, and I just enjoyed real connection with my friends, and no more RSI.
Wow, wonderful. And so when you mentioned you came across Dr. Sarno when looking in the RSI community, was that the first time you'd come across him, or was it the first time you recognised RSI was related to Sarno?
So it both happened at the same time, searching into RSI, and ended up on a forum from Harvard University, and then there was John Sarno, so it was all at the same. Vulvodynia, I didn't know about John Sarno then, but then a few years later, when I was living my single life, obviously, then I developed that, and that's when I read an article that connected Sarno's work and RSI.
Right, great. Lovely. Okay, shall we go for a question that popped up? So Katrin says she's working with someone on eczema at the moment, and there are some issues around anger. However, what can they do when the anger is being repressed due to guilt? Any ideas welcome. So I'm going to first of all just respond, because Shaheen, who's another practitioner, has mentioned that journaling can be extremely effective when dealing with guilt and other repressed negative emotions. So yeah, absolutely, that is one really good way of helping. So I'm just going to pass it straight over to you, Edith. How would you respond to that?
I had repressed anger. So even when because it's hard to explain every single step, but when I had this eczema on my hands, I didn't know I was angry.
Right.
And it's not even that I felt guilty for being angry. I didn't know I was angry. I didn't feel the anger. So for me, it's whenever you're. So what happened is I was listening to a podcast one day, unrelated, and it was about. Related, yes. It was about sexual abuse, and I felt something in my stomach contract, and I thought there's something going on here. So to answer your question, Katrin, it's about connecting with the body and the somatic tracking. So I didn't know I was doing somatic tracking, but I listened to a podcast. It triggered a strong response, and I felt that rage. I just allowed it to happen. And then because I had eczema there, and that eczema disappeared. So my anger may not have been connected to the real cause of my eczema or my colleague or whatever, because there's so many stories, but I had anger somewhere, and it was about something from the past, and then I could express it then, and then it helped. So I don't know if it makes sense, but I understand that anger, sometimes it's hard to let it out. Meditation really helps, and paying attention to the sensations in the body.
Okay, and so basically we can be triggered, what you're saying there, which happens is we can be triggered in the moment, and that trigger in the moment is often not just what's happening now, but it's been primed in the past. Absolutely. So even if we don't know that what it's linked to, by dealing with that emotion in the moment, we can help relieve that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to guilt, so what can they do when the anger is being repressed due to guilt? And that's very common as well, because if we've grown up believing that anger is bad, it's dangerous to be angry, or for many different reasons, or we are a kind, good person, that we don't show anger. We're just kind and good, and how could we possibly feel angry? Or maybe it's to do with a parent whom we love. But actually, then at that time, as a child, maybe we were really angry, but we weren't able to express how we felt. And because we love that parent, it can often be very difficult for people to then, for example, journal and express the anger towards a parent that they love, even though they can understand that, yes, they do feel anger, but I love them, and I fully understand why they did what they did, and they didn't have the awareness that we have now. And therefore that guilt means that often they can't express that. Now, I remember talking to a client this week about this actually, and suggesting that if you, let's say you have had a challenging relationship with your dad, and maybe because you love them and you understand that situation, maybe you don't feel that you can journal towards that, express your anger towards that dad. For example, one of the things I would suggest is an unsent letter to your dad, and it might be that you go back to that time as a child or a teenager or whatever, as a way to express allow your younger self to have a voice. So allow yourself to just, first of all, imagine you back at that age, excuse me, and you imagine how you're feeling and allow yourself to feel those feelings, and then offload, write an unsent letter to your dad. And then if there's guilt, then deal with the guilt. But if that's really not possible, sometimes it can be helpful to write an unsent letter from you then at that age to you now. The more understanding, with the more awareness that we have, because that can sometimes get past some of that guilt, because you're not telling your dad how you feel about him, but you are telling yourself, your older, wiser self. And that can be a way that it's easier to express that anger, to be able to really offload, oh my God, I can't believe he did this, I'm so angry, how dare he? And then the older self can respond in an understanding letter back, empathic, self-compassionate, and, you know, expressing, yes, of course you felt like that, and it's natural to feel like that, and, you know, I understand, and you did so well, and whatever. And then helping that younger child or younger self understand and put it into perspective and rationalize. Sometimes that can help with the guilt, but then, as Shaheen said, journaling about guilt can be just as effective as journaling about anger or whatever, and maybe just doing the different layers. So I hope that's answered your question, Katrine. I hope it's helped. But yeah, carry on. Any other questions, do ask any more questions. There was something else I was going to mention again, and I can't remember at the moment. But one of the things that I know you do, you are a poet as well, aren't you?
Yes, yes, I do write. I mean, yes, I do lots of things. Yes, I write poems, songs, writing with rhymes. I find it really helpful because you have to use your brain in a creative way, which will make connections with things that your logical brain would not make connection with. Mm-hmm. And writing with my my non-dominant hand in journaling, super powerful.
Yeah.
Have you tried, Georgie, to do that?
I have. Yes. It can be really powerful. So tell us how you use that then.
So if I'm deciding, okay, I have to journal about something, I just use my dominant hand to just put on paper what I feel on the moment, and then when I feel stuck or once I have offloaded, I switch to my non-dominant hand. And even though I don't know what I want to write, because I'm doing this at a stage where I feel like I've written everything, and I just move my hands, not knowing what I'm going to write, and I feel it triggers something, a neural pathway, whatever, that has the voice of my inner child, younger self. And when I write with my non-dominant hand, it's things like, Mommy and Daddy are angry, I'm scared. And it's not something I would never write that in that way with my dominant hand, but the word, and every time I'm like, wow, it's really my voice when I was a kid. And I use it with a dialogue. So I establish a dialogue between my adult self with my dominant hand and my younger self with my left hand. And let's say the younger self says, I'm scared. Then I change my pen and write, what are you scared about? And change again. And sometimes weird, like I did it last time and had weird memories that it stinks in the kitchen. And I'm like, I remember this moment. So it was really like profound, old, really buried memories.
Wow.
And that helps me unravel deep emotions then. And then the dominant hand will always reassure the non-dominant hand that she's loved, that she's worthy, that she's okay, that she's right to be angry, it's not fair, blah, blah, blah. So I use it as a dialogue, yeah.
Excellent. I mean, I know that's something that we include in our online program, for example, and it's something I've done off and on, sometimes more successfully than others. And it sounds like you are better than I am at being, and certainly from all that you've explained, at being able to just really let go and allow that inner child unconscious mind. There are other ways that I use that I find easier, but for some people it's journaling, some people it's visualizations or whatever. But it sounds like you really are able to let go and allow the inner child to come out through your writing. But yeah, no, that's really good. And it was interesting when you said, initially you said you're left-handed, and then you said non-dominant, because I'm left-handed. And so
that's why, yeah, sorry, I don't want to be not inclusive, but yeah, dominant, non-dominant. Yeah.
You explained that, which is great. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really good. And it's very clear that you are really good at being able to be authentic and are able to access your emotions and how you're feeling, which is wonderful. Okay, so Catherine says, you are offering such an excellent presentation of TMS symptoms, their deeper causes and your ways of discovering how to release the associated repressed emotions, and with such a wonderful smile and giggle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Catherine says, thank you for your answers. They're very helpful. Shaheen says, wow, that is so interesting, and I will certainly try to journal using my non-dominant hand too. Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird because it's your non-dominant hand. So it tends to be, for children, young children especially, and it can be, pre-verbal as well. Even when they start to talk, they're not very good at writing. And therefore to write, you can't write long sentences.
I don't write, no.
It's often
and sometimes I can't even read what I write. It's just, but the movement, I feel like it's connected with a different section of my brain that I don't use very much. And but the language is different and the memories are different. So I know everyone's different, but for me that works really well.
You've inspired me to practice that more again.
Good.
No, that's fantastic. And so you mentioned in some of the information you provided with us to share with people that you've now, with your poetry, you've now started to be able to get it out there more. You're now published, and that was something you struggled to do, to get it out there. You mentioned imposter syndrome, which I know very well. To that, being able to get out there and be able to feel that you are good enough to have your poetry published. And it sounds like all of this awareness and understanding you've developed has really helped you move forward personally as well. Yeah,
and I think that's something I learned from Eczema. For me, Eczema was always about the tension between authenticity and attachment. So on one side you have authenticity, on one side you have love, and basically when I felt that I had to sacrifice to be loved, or the other way around, when I was authentic I would lose attachment, which is a pattern I had in my childhood. This tension created Eczema, because either way I was unhappy. And there's also, so this equation has also now realized a third component, which is safe. So being safe to be authentic, being safe to be loved, and, learning to be authentic and loved at the same time. So this triangle for me is the work that I've done for myself. And this so I would get eczema, for instance, if I sacrifice, or if I please too much, or if I get conflict situation where I want to please and I don't speak my truth, or I'm scared of conflict. So it's all around safety, love, authenticity, and then I would have eczema. So I mapped my eczema pattern based on those three components: authenticity, love, and safety. And that also means, authenticity means to showing up who I am, because if you think about eczema as a symptom, it's rashes on your body. So what was I doing? I was hiding myself. I was hiding my skin. I was covering myself, and I was not showing up as the person I am. I was hiding, and there's shame associated with that, the shame. And dealing with the eczema, dealing with the cause, dealing with feeling safe, speaking my truth, even if it creates a little conflict, and experiencing that it's safe to have a conflict because we can have repair after that. It helped me showing my work. It's helping me now being here live, because that's scary. So thank you. Yes. So that's why authenticity is a big thing for me. It's the promise I want to make for myself. And that's definitely connected to eczema, for sure.
Absolutely, because the skin is the boundary between us and the outside world.
Absolutely.
The
border of the self.
Yeah, absolutely. And that any irritation inside is going to reflect in the skin. Yeah,
but it's funny how some conditions are all invisible, and eczema is visible for ourselves and others. It's interesting.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you. So Lucinda says, my grief seems to be going on and on. Any advice? Now it's difficult without, more of an understanding, Edith, but what would you suggest with that?
Feel it. Grief is a process. It's not, I know when I talked, it sounded like, oh yeah, I cried and it's over. But grief is a journey. It's a process, and accept the grief, feel the grief, and compassion, self-compassion.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all. There's nothing to do. It's sad. It's sad to lose whatever you have lost.
And so it is a process, and sometimes you need help going through that process, maybe with somebody who actually is trained in grief, as one of our practitioners actually, in supporting people as they're working through that. Okay, Irily says, I wonder whether, because you are very creative, you are able to get in touch with your feelings and intuition more easily. I think that, Irily. More easily than someone whose work is knowledge thinking driven, like an academic, for example.
Maybe, I don't know. I like intuition, just the concept I like, and I get the best ideas when I don't think. So when I ride my bike and I'm looking at the trees, I'm like, oh, great idea for my business, and I have to stop and write it down. So it happens when I don't think about it.
And I think that's a really important thing to know. And there are a lot of really successful, very well-known people who actually take time every day to do nothing, specifically to do nothing, because that's where they get their creative ideas. And so I think you're right, Irily. And often it is about, even if we're an academic, somebody who's often needs to overthink. That's what they are. They intellectualize things. To know that we can actually learn and gain some unconscious understanding, and to gain insights and have epiphanies when we're not thinking, when we have that time. And just like you, when I go off for a bike ride, or I go for a run, or just walking. I went for a walk this morning in nature, and yes, I don't specifically go to think about anything, and I'm often being mindful and noticing something, but then there's something in my mind, and I jot it down on my phone often, if that's the case. If I wrote a blog on a run on one occasion many years ago. I knew I wanted to write this blog at some point, but it was just never the right time, or I was just thinking I ought to do it, and then I just left it. And then on this run, it was just coming. And in the end, I put my recording thing on so I could record it as I was going on.
Yeah, great.
And it was just the right time, because I was just letting go of everything. So that, I think I agree with Irily that I feel that, yes, it's probably you're really expressing how good you are at being intuitive and being able to make connections, and that creative side of you, I'm sure, plays a part in that. But that doesn't mean that other people can't, but it just means that we need to be able to take that time out to be still. That's the importance of silence, of being still and not trying and pushing all the time, but actually just taking that time out, even if you don't meditate or anything, to just take yourself off in a walk in nature, for example.
But that's really hard in a society that will push for productivity, value perfectionism, and all those hyperactive mechanisms. So
yes,
I have compassion for everyone, because the society doesn't want us to take the time to do nothing.
No, absolutely. And despite the fact that many studies show that actually, or even just one study showing, if you take a break at lunchtime out of your workstation, you're more productive in the afternoon. Loads of studies showing this, but actually nothing happens. Okay, so Simone says, hello to us both. Edith is giving us real insight through sharing her journey with such honesty. Thank you so much. It makes me feel more courageous just hearing her.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And maybe this will be you one day, Simone. Jenny says, could this also be related to acne? Yes. My daughter suffers from acne, and even though we recognize that there is some an emotional impact. It's interesting that you talk of authenticity of self and safety, which is so hard to relate as a teenager. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I would agree, definitely. Acne, and really beginning to look at how, you know, finding ways with a teenager to let them feel safe, to be authentic, to express, and know that they can express and feel safe by acknowledging how they're feeling. Katrin, have you tried the unsent letter approach? It can be really powerful to write to the person who passed. Okay, you're mentioning that to Lucinda. Yes, I believe Lucinda has. And grief isn't always about loss of, well, it's all about loss. It's not always about somebody dying. I think that's important to note. And what we don't know when we're talking about things here is specific personal things going on. But just to recognise that grief is not just about somebody who's died. But yeah, otherwise, yes, absolutely, it can be really helpful to write unsent letters, whether they've died or not. So good point there, Katrin. And Maeve, we need everybody, the academics, the intuitives, and everyone else. We absolutely do, Maeve. Each person has their own strengths, which gives value to society as a whole. And I think, and in fact, we talked about Clifton's strengths, didn't we, in a past chat with Gemma McFall. And I think that helps us see that we all have different strengths. And when we are using those, we can make such a big difference, not just to other people, but to be in flow and feel happier in ourselves as well. So, absolutely. Is there anything that you particularly want to say before we finish, Edith, to people listening, or maybe a biggest insight that you've had? Or I think you explained everything so beautifully already, though.
Self-compassion is very important. In relation to guilt, because we had a question just before, what helps, I find, is to put the person as if it was a situation that was happening to a friend, a really close friend. So let's say, what advice would you give to someone who's going through what you're doing, what you're going through? And usually the advice towards a friend is, oh my God, of course, I would be furious, I would be so angry, blah, blah, blah. And that's a way to bypass, I find, the guilt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, everyone, it's as you said, Georgie, it's a human experience, pain. I don't want to be pain-free. I just want to learn from my body and be more in touch with my body. I started yoga Tuesday. I was so sore yesterday. But I had these emotions coming up, and I thought, what a beautiful way, because I wanted to experience my body in a different, doing different movements, getting out of my comfort zone, moving differently, I think helps a lot of people with mind-body issues. And yes, emotions emerge. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it did. So yeah, moving the body in a different way, trying new things, even little things, it does help.
Wonderful. That's good advice. Absolutely. Get back into movement more. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Edith, and thank you everybody for listening and for your questions, because that helps with the flow of and being able to get what we want and what we need from the guests that we have. So thank you, everybody. Have a lovely day, and thank you, Edith.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Georgie. See you soon online.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.